What's correct, like it's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. And we're talking receivers. Yes, starts and sit. Who do we start? Who do we sit at receiver? I'm glad you're here. Luckily, the bye didn't hit us too hard with too many receivers. Maybe your Tyler Lockett, your DK Metcalf, your Devontae Adams, but that's about it. So let's take a look at who we should feel good about and who we should be like, ah. But before we get into that, if you're enjoying the content, become a bro and subscribe and leave a thumbs up. Helps me get discovered. It's much appreciated. Much obliged. And I'll be streaming this this Friday on Twitch. So if you want to check that out, it's Broshmo Gaming. Come and chat. I'll be doing the talking thing. But let's go ahead. Let's get into receivers because this could take a little bit because there's so many people to talk about. Let's talk about the Thursday night game. Steelers, Browns. If you're a Steeler receiver, I think you're a sit. Juju. I mean, this is pretty. Right now, it's pretty unpredictable because they all share, like, between Juju, James Washington, and Deontay Johnson, they all share a very similar volume. I think last week it was Juju had 6, Johnson had 6 targets, and then Washington had 7, or that could have been mixed up. I know it was 7 and then 2 guys with 6. So they all share very similar volume, and the matchup it makes it pretty unpredictable because Cleveland, they're 11th against opposing receivers. So I don't know. I don't want to predict who's gonna ball out and who's not. So there sits for me. Let's talk about Jarvis Landry because I think he is a must start in this. It's a middle of the pack defense, but Mike Hilton is the slot corner for the Steelers, and he's typically the slot. Sometimes they bring Minka Fitzpatrick in there, but he's been kind of up and down this year. So I think Landry, based on last week, he saw 10 targets and he did a lot with them. He might get a little bit. I think it makes him a good wide receiver 2/flex option. Higgins, he's a sit. In case you wanted to know, he only saw 1 target last week in lieu of Callaway. And then OBJ. What do we do with Odell Beckham, man? He just has really no value right now. He had 12 targets and he was all right. I mean, I think at this point, yeah, you have to start him, but he's like a flex at best. I mean, that's just is what it is, man. It sucks. And we go to Miami versus Buffalo. Let's start with Buffalo, man. I think both John Brown and Cole Beasley are fine starts. The Dolphins are 17th against opposing receivers. I think Brown has obviously the higher upside. Cole Beasley, though, he can be relied on in PPR leagues. As far as the Dolphins go, I think there's only one receiver that is startable, Devontae Parker. He's been super consistent for anyone that has been playing him. I know the Browns are 6th against opposing receivers. He's probably going to be shadowed by Tre'Davious White. But the guy had 10 targets last week. He's at least going to get opportunity. And I love me some opportunity because opportunity could turn into points. On to Dallas versus Detroit. The only start I have Cooper and Gallup as starts. Detroit, man, they're 24th against opposing receivers, but I have Randall Cobb as a sit because he's likely to face off against Justin Coleman, who has been brilliant this year. And for Detroit, it really depends who's at quarterback because this is a tough matchup. And if it's Driscoll, I don't trust anybody. But if Matthew Stafford is back, you got to start Marvin Jones. You got to start Kenny Golladay because you got to risk who will hit. One of them typically hits, sometimes both of them. So you got to take that risk. I think they're both low-end wide receiver 2s, maybe flex starts. And then Danny Amendola, he's a sit. He gets just his targets are low quality. He doesn't provide a lot of upside. So don't do it to yourself. Don't do it. And then we're going to be talking about Jacksonville versus Indianapolis. My only start for Jacksonville is Dede Westbrook. He has a rapport, at least some sort of rapport, with Nick Foles, and that was granted in the preseason. But still, it's something we can base, it's something we need to take into account, you know? So I think he's a start. It's a tough matchup against the Colts. They're 9th against opposing receivers, but he would be my start if I had to start someone for Jacksonville. So sorry, DJ Chark. Sorry, Chris Conley. I would sit y'all. It's a tough matchup, and I want to see what the target share looks like first. As far as the Colts, T.Y. Hilton, he's doubtful. If he is out, Pascal definitely gets a rise, especially if Brissett is back at quarterback. Sounds like he will be. So the Jaguars, they're 13th against opposing receivers, so pretty good, but I like him being a reliable target if Brissett is there. If not, then it becomes hard to start him. And we go to Minnesota versus Denver. There's really just two wide receivers I think worth talking about. Cortland Sutton, I think he's a start. He's really the only name worth talking about for Denver. The Vikings are 27th against opposing receivers. Their corners have struggled mightily. It doesn't matter if it's Trey Waynes, who didn't play last week, Mike Hughes, who looked bad last week, and then Xavier Rhodes, who hasn't looked really good at all this year. So the corners are pretty. I don't want to say rubbish, but they're not playing well. Let's go with that. And then as for the Vikings, oh man, Stephon Diggs, you have to start him, right? I mean, there's no Thielen, and you gotta kind of hope for the good game from Diggs. It's a tough matchup where it's rough. You have to start him. He's a low end start this week, a flex probably at best, but just pray for the good Diggs game, right? And then we got Saints versus the Buccaneers. I think there's a lot of startable guys in this game. Let's start with Michael Thomas. He's always a start. Haha. He. And then Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are always starts as well. They have played balls out. And my sneaky start here, though, Teddy Ginn Jr., the speedster. He faces a secondary that is 32nd against opposing receivers. He won't be matched up probably with, was it Jamel Dean? I think, yeah. The rookie out of, I believe it's Auburn. I'm pretty sure. But it is what it is. He graded very well last week, and he looked pretty good. He will probably be matched up against Thomas because Dean, he's a bigger, more physical receiver. So that matchup, it's obviously going to be on Thomas, who is a possession-type guy. Teddy Ginn Jr., honestly, could be a great play. So if you don't have him, or you want him, or you need him, go get him, man. Go get him. And then we're on to the Jets versus Washington. Again, this game, I don't really like much in this game. Let's start with the Jets. Demaryius Thomas, I think he's a sit. I mean, there's not a lot of upside to him. I mean, he's almost in the Robbie Anderson sneaking category, but at least he sees a little more volume than Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson, man, I'm done with him. He shouldn't be on a roster. Yeah, and Demaryius Thomas is kind of there too. But stinking Crowder, dude, Sam Darnold loves him. He's seen a lot of targets. I think he's a good start in this game against the rookie Jimmy Moreland, who he should be playing in the slot. I know sometimes they try to throw him on the outside, but that's not his forte. They should be playing in the slot. They might play him more in the slot. If that's the case, I think Crowder has a good opportunity to take advantage of the rookie there. And then Terry McLaurin might be the only guy I really talk about in this matchup. It's a great matchup. The Jets are 31st against opposing running backs, but you started in a rookie quarterback. He hasn't looked that great all year, and that might hurt McLaurin. But this start is more of a reflection on his ability, because this guy is a number one receiver. So I think he's a flex start here at best this week. On to the next game. We're talking Atlanta versus Carolina Panthers, man. Again, I think a lot of guys in this are a start. And it's kind of tough. Julio Jones, of course, he's a start. Carolina, they're 21st against opposing receivers, so go ahead and give them your start. I think Calvin Ridley, though, what the heck, man? This was just like him in his rookie year. Just, I like roller coasters. I don't want to be along for this ride, though. I'm done. I think he's still a start with that being said, but he has the same upside as Russell Gage, who is now their slot, who has kind of taken the place of Mohamed Sanu, kind of, sort of. He doesn't see nearly the same volume as Mohamed Sanu. But I think these guys are on the same level, honestly. They're low-end, maybe wide receiver threes to their flex starts. So I think they both have the same upside. So Riddle is no better than Gage. And then DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel, I think they're always pretty viable. Even last week, I thought Samuel was a sit. He didn't get a lot, but he got the touchdown. So they're both viable. I think they're both good starts against a pretty rickety rank defense there in Atlanta. And on to the Houston versus Baltimore game. I think there's just two guys here we're starting. One is one of the best receivers in the league. It's Hopkins, man. You spend a first-round pick on him, you start him. He's been steady, if not, he hasn't been spectacular, but he's been steady. And then he'll see a lot of the targets. I don't think Kenny Stills is a good. I don't think he's a good start this week. He kind of falls into that Will Fuller where he's boom or bust, but he's more bust than boom. So I don't like him in this matchup this week. Ravens been pretty tough against receivers recently. And then I think Hollywood Brown, he has that big play upside, especially against a secondary that's really struggled. So I like him as a play this week. And then Willie Snead, you're gonna sit Willie Snead. He's yeah. I don't know why I keep even bringing him up in this, but I do it just for you, just in case you happen to have a bad fantasy receiver on your roster. And that's what Willie Snead is. And we got Arizona versus San Fran. Should be a fun matchup. Dude, Christian Kirk, I know he had a really bad outing last time against San Fran. I would ride this hot streak from him last week. I think he's a good start this week. Fitzgerald, I think is a sit though. I mean, the San Fran, they're fourth against opposing receivers, but he was kind of struggling up until last week, which you're playing Tampa Bay. Of course, you're going to have a good outing, so I think you can kind of toss that game. That's kind of, that's kind of an asterisk. Hey, you're facing a bad defense. Of course, you're going to have a really good game. So he'd be a sit. Andy Isabella, he's a sit. Unless you're in a deeper league, then go ahead and try to chase the big play, because that's what he is. He's just a big play threat. And then for the 49ers, man, if Emmanuel Sanders is healthy, he's a good start. Sounds like he might be a game time decision, so that kind of sucks. So leave a flex spot open just in case. And then Deebo Samuel, I think, is a good start in this game, and because Arizona, they're 22nd against opposing receivers. But if Samuels isn't good to go, then he gets a big upgrade there. So I do like Deebo Samuel in this matchup. And he dropped a touchdown in their last matchup. So yeah, he's going to be used. They've used him a lot. Dante Pellis, he's fantasy irrelevant. He's a sit. He's like their fourth receiver. Kendrick Bourne's passed him on the depth chart. So let's not talk about Dante Pettis and all the hopes and dreams Dante Pettis killed. And we're going to Oakland for their matchup against Cincinnati. AJ Green, he is out. Let's not talk about it. Tyler Boyd, though, I think he's a start this week. He's a wide receiver, 3/flex. Just because it's Ryan Finley throwing him the ball. But the Raiders are 28th against opposing receivers. Provide some upside. Auden Tate, and then Erickson, they're sits. I mean, I don't think they have any playability with Finley at quarterback. As far as the Raiders, Tyrell Williams is a good start. I think Hunter Renfrow is a good start as well. The Cincinnati, they're 12th. Yeah, they're 12th against opposing receivers. But I think this matchup does provide a lot of upside, because especially for Renfrow, who a lot of his stuff is underneath, he eats up the middle. So I think this is a good matchup for both these guys. And we go to Philadelphia versus Patriots. Alshon Jeffrey, he's questionable right now, so he might not even play this week. But even if he does, he's a super low end start. I won't want to start him. Patriots are first against opposing receivers, but Jeffrey hasn't scored double digits since week 6, so it's really hard. There's better plays out there. As far as Sanu and Edelman, speaking of better plays, both these guys are great plays. They're great starts. In the last game, Sanu had 14 targets, so I'm very enticed by both these guys. Philip Dorsett, I'm a little less, just because I think a majority of the work goes to these two guys. They've done well, and I think it goes Edelman, Sanu, White, and then Dorsett. James White, the running back, being more viable than Philip Dorsett, the receiver. Just saying. So those two guys are starts. Philip Dorsett is a sit, and they got a good matchup against that Philadelphia secondary. And then we're going to go to the Sunday night game, being Chicago versus the Rams. This is This is weird. Taylor, let's start with Gabriel for the Bears. I think he's a sit. Allen Robinson, though, for me, is a start. It might be a tough matchup. I don't think he won't see Jalen Ramsey the whole game. Like, not, he'll see him parts of the game, but they like to move around Allen Robinson here and there. He's a great receiver. He's a good receiver. He's a very good receiver. Let's go with that. It's a tough matchup. Rams are 11th against opposing receivers, but I bank on Mitch trying to get him the ball. I'm just gonna go with that. It's a tough call, but you almost have to make it for Allen Robinson. And for the Rams, woo-wee, man. It looks like Cooks is out this week. He's in concussion protocol. It's hard to sit Robert Woods. It is, but this is a tough matchup. The Bears are 5th against opposing receivers, and if I had to pick between him and Cooper Kupp, I would sit him. I think Cooper Kupp is gonna rebound very good from that goose egg he laid in Pittsburgh. So I think he's you have to start Cooper Kupp. Robert Woods, though, it's kind of tough. He might, if you really want, he's a flex play at best. And then Reynolds, man, nah, sit him. He's the 4th option in this offense, so I think he's a sit in a tough matchup. On to the Monday night game. There we go. We got the Chiefs facing the Chargers, man. Tyreek Hill. Yeah, dude, no, he's a start. He hasn't scored under 10 points since return. He's a great start. Watkins, you think he's a low flex start. I mean, you know, he hasn't really produced well since the beginning of the year. And really, he's only a start because he's playing in this Chief offense. As far as Mecole Hardman, I'd sit. He's a big play threat, but I think he's better on your bench if Watkins or Hill were to go down. It's nice to have him, and then you could play him the following week. But I mean, the only production he had last week was at 1 reception for a touchdown that went like 60 some yards. So you'd be just waiting for the big play. That's it. So, and let's talk about Demarcus Robinson real quick. He's there. I think he's a sit. I mean, he's involved in the offense. I don't know, not a lot of confidence there. And then the Chargers, Keenan Allen, I think he's a great start. This seems like it would be a good matchup, but the Chiefs are 7th against opposing receivers, but he sees a significant amount of the targets. I know he hasn't scored a touchdown since week 3, but I think that could change this week. I like Keenan Allen. I don't like Mike Williams. Surprise, surprise. If you're not new to the channel, then you know I'm not high on Mike Williams. He only has had 3 targets in the last 2 games, in each of the last 2 games, so it's a tough matchup. I'm not cool with it, but that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. I got a big board coming out for the NFL draft this Friday, so I don't know if I mentioned that in this video. Everything is starting to become hazy and my mind ain't working right, but until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.